Hi, fellow tricksters. Today, I want to talk about burnout. I want to issue code and process and org stuff, and I want to talk about burnout. I want to talk about it because I just came out of it, and now I'm pretty aware of what I went through. And it's probably quite prevalent in this post-COVID era. I know a bunch of people around me who exhibit similar symptoms and had to deal with it in various ways. So I figure sharing my experience might help others recognize if these symptoms start in themselves or possibly prevent it. I have some advice as well to try and prevent or cope if you can or must. I was inspired to share this by this music video over here, which I encourage you all to go experience. Okay, enough of this Wadsworth constant introduction, on to the topic. Okay, so I'm going to talk just a little bit about the chronology and then what happened right after, and then how long it took me to recover, and then the money aspect, and then what I learned, and then advice. Okay, should be fairly straightforward. It's not particularly poetic, but I figure this is what happened. So, oh man. Okay. My burnout progression story goes through basically 4 companies and then goes kind of like through COVID as well, because that's how the world and life and time works. So I was at a company right before COVID, and I was in an engineering position and then a management position there, and I had to go through the stress of being in the management position, like a leadership position, in multiple stages. One, I had to adopt GTD, like the Getting Things Done framework, because it was my first time actually dealing with so many open loops and open contexts and multiple ongoing projects, and I just couldn't remember them all, and I couldn't just be productive, or I couldn't just be aware of everything at the beginning of every meeting I was in, and it seemed like I wasn't prepared and I couldn't contribute properly. So it took me a while to get into that, but that was fine. That took away a whole bunch of stress when I realized this was a way to kind of manage everything by just trusting the system and the flow, and that was great. But for various reasons, some stress piled up that I eventually tried to run away from, and that should have been the first sign that I was trying to run away from something. But I rationalized with myself that I wasn't running away from something, that I was just done with it, and that I wanted to move on to my next opportunity, which, to be fair, was kind of true, which is how I was able to rationalize it. But the deep reasoning, the deep emotion behind it wasn't curiosity and growth, but sort of fear and stress. And I left that company literally the day before before New York City, which is where I live, went into isolation for COVID. So like all the companies went remote and so forth. And I'm an introvert, so that was fine with me, right? I just didn't really notice, so to speak, because I live by myself, and it was a nice break. It was a nice relaxation, and also I was just coming out of this stressful experience, so it was really good for me to just kind of be alone, right, and just recover. And I took a little while before taking my the next job. And to be fair here, the main reason why I took a while before the next job, and the while is like 2 months, approximately 3 months, maybe at the most, I think 2.5 months, 2 months. The main reason why was because the Final Fantasy VII Remake was coming out like a month and a half after or so, and I really wanted to be able to just play that, because I'm a big fan. I was really looking forward to it, so I just took that time and played it. Anyway, so that I took a small break, and then I joined another company, so I joined this company, and COVID was rising, right? It was becoming this bigger deal. in my time not working, I was able to follow the news by the governor of the state of New York. I got to see the horrendous graphs, like the daily mortality rates, the potential infections. I got to follow all the sort of science and pseudoscience and all the non-vetted research and all the fear and all the misunderstanding about masks. And I learned about the sort of the open grave that they had in Central Park for a while, which is kind of terrifying. And anyways, that didn't help things. But I joined this other company, and things seemed to go okay for a while. But it was very strange because it was fully remote for the first time in basically everyone's life in that company. And it was a company where we all had basically developed as a best practice face-to-face and like co-located collaboration. So which is things that I will talk about here as being the best ways to do work on this channel as well. So yeah, that was difficult. That was tricky. And anyway, we figured out collaboration through video calls, and things worked okay. But the stress was rising, and I didn't have a way to get rid of it, essentially. So that didn't help. I eventually left that company after less than a year, because I was still within COVID, right? Well, like if you're counting, we're in like 2021-ish at this time. And so after that, I took a break of, I don't know, like a month or two, maybe 3 months at the most. So like a big enough break that I should have thought something else is wrong, because the break before I had a clear cut reason. I wanted to play this one video game, and I didn't want to start a new company, and I realized it's a dumb reason. So there's another warning sign, right? I had this clear cut reason that I wanted to play a video game. But anyway, I had this break, and I didn't have a good reason for it. I just had this break. And then I started looking for a job, and I eventually found one. And I interviewed sort of incorrectly, in the sense that I did not interview for the full breadth of things you need to interview for when you're going to be looking for a company. Like I didn't really interview the people who were going to be my colleagues, or my boss, or my reports for. I didn't really interview them for sort of, how do you say, professional fit, maybe, like practices fit, because all I cared about was I wanted to work with people who were nice and intelligent, and I got that. Like the company I joined, they were all very smart, and they were all very nice, but the company was not a New York City startup. And so it had a very, very different pace, culture, way of working, and like a whole different set of things than what I was expecting and what I was used to. And I did not check for that. It was also, I also didn't check. Well, anyway, there's a whole bunch of stuff I should have done in the interview, and I didn't, because I really just wanted to prioritize like working with nice people, essentially. Which is another sort of sign if you're rationalizing that there's something that you should do that you're not doing. That's a flag, right? Pay attention. You should interview for a company you're going to stay at. That means you should interview for actually everything in the company. You should leave as little to chance as possible. Anyway, so I was there for, again, like a year, and that's not great. I just, even like 4 months in, I knew that I wanted to leave the company, and I stayed 8 months more than that. And that's just because, and that was all me, right? Like this wasn't like, I just did not do the work I needed to do. Like, I mean, I did the work I needed to do in the company, but I didn't do the pre-work I needed to do. I didn't do the interview well. And, when you're running away from yourself, it's very hard to be yourself, so to speak. So anyway, after I left this company, I was absolutely convinced that I was going to take a 2-week break, and I was going to start interviewing, and I would have a job in like 6 or 8 weeks after that. I had a couple of interviews before I left the company, which is how I knew that, like, how I made myself feel better about leaving without having another job lined up. And I figured, the market is still fine, which is it was at the time, so I can totally interview. And so I left. And even like in the week and a half or 2 weeks after I made this, I made this decision and left the company, I even like registered a new LLC, which is the LLC that I'm using, so to speak, for these videos and the coaching business that I'm trying to start here, which isn't taking off because I have to learn to do marketing. But that's another video. So like I had this intent to do work, and I was like, I'm gonna start this. It's gonna be great. And then 2 weeks went by, and besides that, nothing. I didn't really interview. I didn't go on LinkedIn, and I just kind of there were video games to play, and I thought, I'll just play these video games. Like there's like this list of video games. I could give you the list of what I did, but the point is I just kept on prioritizing not doing things that were important to be a productive member of society, like, having income, having a job, helping other people, and so forth. And it took me a good 6 to 8 weeks to realize that maybe something was off. And the way I realized something was off was pretty much that thinking about looking for a new job, thinking about working, thinking about talking about my previous job basically hurt my brain. Like it was like it didn't feel good. And so, yeah, I started to say, I think maybe I'm burned out. And so I just kind of accepted that I had to maybe just let something flow and happen, because I don't really know if there's ways to, recover from burnout other than time. Just like, maybe there are better ways, but I haven't found them. Also, because weirdly enough, when you're burned out, you don't want to, well, I didn't want to be productive in that way either. I didn't want to get out of burnout. I just wanted to, tell the whole world to fuck off. And so that was a thing basically I did. So yeah, let's talk about how long it took me to recover from burnout. So now I'm here. I've made a couple of videos on this channel which were not quite out of burnout, but kind of, sort of, like I can do something productive. And because because now I sort of wanted to do something. So that was the beginning of coming out of it. But all told, 9 months. 9 fucking months of fuck all. Yeah, that is how long it took me to get back to a state of, hey, how about this work thing? How about collaborating with other people? How about actually trying to accomplish things, and then taking a vision and then putting it into practice and realizing it and making the world a better place? Like, how about actually doing all these things? And how about, making money? That would be nice too, right? But like, actually, these thoughts were actually possible now, as opposed to being things that, like, I sort of knew I had to think about, kind of like Who Watches the Watchmen type of thing. Like when you meditate, you can sort of notice that you're thinking, right? So like I knew that these thoughts existed, but I couldn't touch them. And now I'm able to, right? And now I'm able to interact with them. And now I'm actually excited to interact with them, as opposed to being fearful of interacting with them. So yeah, 9 months of nothing. And I just tore through like my level 1 savings, essentially, which were like acceptable money to spend for things. Or at least the way I decided that. It's probably irresponsible for the next 25 years of my life, but I don't think it would have been good for me to be at work, because looking back, at who I was through the burnout, even like through the last job before burnout, I grew very impatient. I grew very irascible, which I think might be a word in English, but basically, I was very prone to anger, and that's usually a sign for me. Like I don't know how everybody else is put together, but like for me, when I become impatient, when I become quickly angry, I know that something is off, and I'm particularly stressed, and I have to take a step back, and I'm like, okay, so like something is wrong with my equilibrium, if you will. So yeah. Anyway, so was there a choice? Like, what if I didn't have the money to do those 9 months? Like, I don't know. I mean, I know what I should have done, but would I have made the same choice? I'm not sure. I would probably have. I don't know what I would have done. I would probably have taken another job, and probably because of the mental and emotional state I was in, I again would not have looked for a particularly good fit. Or I might have kind of taken a fallback, simple job of something that I knew I could do, and not get involved and not do things, and just, get money, do things, get out. I don't know. The difficult thing is, I really thought I was quitting the job for 2 weeks, and I would have another job within 6 weeks. I didn't think I had burnout. I didn't have the self-awareness to realize this is where I was. Like, it took me 6 weeks after that to realize, oh, maybe maybe what I have is more than just this desire to be somewhere else. Maybe what I have is this desire to not be anywhere and just be home and like have my mind kind of recover from wherever it's at. But I can tell you what I have learned, what I will do, what I recommend you do, and probably the only way to make headway here. Someone once told me, you should get a therapist before you need it, because when you do need it, your therapist will be able to recognize it and help before it gets bad. This is advice that I ignored, and I shouldn't have. Ironically, this connects so deeply with this joke about, what experience is? Experience is that thing you get right after you need it. So that's what happened to me, right? Like, my awareness of myself, like your awareness of your own self, is your own blind spot. You literally don't know what you don't know about yourself. So yeah, my recommendation is get a therapist, get someone you can talk to about these things, about everything, really, right? It's not just like specific problems, but just everything in life, because your therapist needs to be able to calibrate to like who you are and where your life is, and then figure out the bits that you might need to help finding equilibrium on. Yeah, this video has got quite long already. Anyway, so yeah, if you're noticing the symptoms, get a therapist, because it's still good. They might be able to work with you to recommend things like pills, drugs, something to cope if you can't rectify and prevent. And besides that, I am not a therapist, so I don't know what they will do. And clearly, as I said, I just didn't really work with one, so I don't know what they would do for me, but I will get one as soon as I can. And fundamentally, so if you're noticing that your stress is building up, right? If you know your tells, like for me, like impatience, anger, this desire to kind of run away from the situation, things like that, start to do what you can for both self-care and stress release, right? And there's a couple of things that you maybe won't want to do, but that for whatever reasons, but that you should. Like I read somewhere, I wish I had the source for this, would be so much better if I did, but I read somewhere that there's basically only two ways to release cortisol, which is the stress hormone, and that one of them is through tears, like through crying, and that the other one is through working out, through sweat, essentially. So make sure that you do both of these things to release the stress, or do one if one's enough. Make sure you take care of your body and your mind. The body and mind are one unit working together. So if you relax your body, it can help relax the mind. So I recommend get massages, and like I don't mean get one every month. What I mean is like start a what's the word? What I mean is start a course of massages, like get 3 a week for a while. Like it really will help a lot more than you think. And tell the massage therapist to start sort of easy in the beginning, and then progressively have them increase the pressure. I know you're going to want to get results after the first one, but you really want to build into the massage therapy and build into the release. You want to recalibrate your body and your brain into a more relaxed state. So workout, massage therapy, tears, find emotional support. Talk to your friends, talk to your family. It doesn't have to be talking about burnout or things, but just get hugs. Like just find the things that are going to be good for you and will help you manage the situation. Like find these outlets. These are all things that you'll need to do to help balance things out. And of course, you'll probably have to recover and find ways to fix the root cause as well, which might be a job, might be whatever else that's putting undue stress on yourself. Okay, that's enough of all of this. I hope this video was useful to you all. I hope none of you burn out, but if you are in the process or if you have been burned out, by all means, put a comment below, join the Discord, let's chat about this. I'm happy to share my experience in more detail. I'm happy to listen to your experience, and sharing can help. It's a way it can be cathartic. It's a way to process, right? All right, I'll see you all next time. Hey Tricksters, thanks for watching. If you like this, smash that like, subscribe, and consider donating so I can keep making content for you. See you all next time.